Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving into a really massive leap forward in artificial intelligence. We are going to unpack how a new architecture called Nemori actually transforms AI memory from this, passive storage bin into a fully active, self-correcting learning engine. Honestly, if you've ever been frustrated because an AI agent seemingly forgot your preferences or made the exact same mistake twice, you're definitely going to want to stick around for this.
So, let's kick things off with a super fundamental question, one that most amnesic AI systems totally ignore when they process past interactions. You see, most systems out there just log what happened, like a court stenographer. But true learning, that actually requires asking what the AI expected to happen and precisely where those expectations fell short.
Here is our roadmap for today. We'll cover the passive memory problem, introduce the prediction gap, outline the predict-calibrate cycle, take a look inside Nemori's architecture, discuss distilling semantic knowledge, and finally, look at why active learning matters.
Section 1. The passive memory problem.
There is a stark contrast between simply patching information together, which is what standard retrieval-augmented generation, or RAG, usually does, and actually updating internal assumptions. Traditional AI memory is kind of like a massive, dusty library that just blindly files away chunks of text. And because it doesn't cross-reference what it thinks it knows against what just actually happened, well, the exact same misunderstanding repeats over and over. Active learning completely fixes this by forcing the system to evolve its knowledge based on reality. Moving to Section 2, introducing the prediction gap.
To make this active self-learning happen, we have to introduce the core concept driving Nemori's evolution. What exactly is a prediction gap? Basically, it's the quantifiable distance between what the agent expected to happen and what actually played out in the raw conversation. So it's not just some vague mistake. It is a highly valuable, structured signal showing exactly where the internal model needs a tune-up. That space right there, the gap, is literally the only place where true net new learning occurs.
And this isn't just abstract computer science theory. It's heavily inspired by the free energy principle in cognitive science. The research notes that genuine learning stems from actively distilling prediction gaps. Think about human learning, right? You learn way more by taking a practice test, failing a few questions, and reviewing exactly why you got them wrong instead of just staring passively at a textbook all day.
Section 3. The predict-calibrate cycle.
This cycle acts a lot like the scientific method, just running continuously inside the AI's mind. First, the agent forms a hypothesis, so it predicts. Next, it observes the actual user dialogue. Then, it compares the two to spot the mismatch. After that, it calibrates by analyzing that specific error. And finally, it distills that lesson straight into its permanent semantic memory. It's just a really elegant, continuous loop of self-correction.
Section 4. Inside Nemori's architecture.
Let's look at how this is computationally built. The system essentially moves through three main modules. First, it organically chops the conversation into topics. Then it generates an episodic memory. But the real magic happens in the semantic memory generation loop. That's where an episode predictor guesses what the conversation was about, and a semantic knowledge distiller steps in to ask, okay, what's the gap here, to perform the actual calibration. To make this pipeline super practical, try using this mental model. Think of the episodic memory as literally a replay tape of the conversation you just had. The prediction gaps, those are the red flags popping up in that replay indicating surprise or an error. And the final semantic memory? Well, that's the newly corrected rule the agent writes down to make sure it never makes that same mistake again.
Section 5. Distilling semantic knowledge.
Now, it is absolutely crucial to note that Nemori calibrates by looking at the raw original conversation ground truth. It does not look at a summary. If it used a summary, the AI might easily miss the nuance of where it actually went wrong. By comparing its prediction directly against the raw segmented conversation, the system guarantees that no subtle details or user preferences are lost in translation.
The integration happens in three strict stages, ensuring the agent doesn't just blindly copy facts. First, retrieval pulls what it already knows. Second, prediction forecasts what the current episode contains based just on the title. Third, distillation extracts only the novel semantic statements from the gap. This is a huge deal because it guarantees the AI's knowledge base only grows with useful new info, keeping the memory banks from getting bloated and redundant.
Section 6. Why active learning matters.
So how does this actually impact performance out in the wild? When tested on the Lokomo benchmark, the results were honestly stunning.
Nemori didn't just edge out the full context baseline overall, it completely dominated in complex temporal reasoning, jumping from a score of 0.562 all the way to 0.710. Because Nemori distills its prediction gaps into pre-reasoned facts, it doesn't get confused by sprawling conversational history. It just retrieves the clear, corrected rules it already figured out.
And get this, it achieved that superior reasoning while reducing token consumption by a massive 88%. It went from using over 23,000 tokens to under 3,000. It turns out, when an AI actually learns effectively from its mistakes, it doesn't need to reread an entire encyclopedia of past chats just to figure out what to say next.
By tracking these prediction gaps, the agent completely stops repeating errors. It naturally and autonomously updates its assumptions about users. No human developer intervention required. This leads to incredibly coherent long-term conversation quality. Plus, the data shows it scales gracefully even in extremely long workflows of over 100,000 tokens.
Which leaves us with a really fascinating thought about the future of human-computer interaction. As Nemoris predict, calibrate cycle loops infinitely, stripping away prediction gaps one by one, we are looking at a future with agents that won't just remember what we said, but will deeply and structurally understand us. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. Keep questioning the gaps and keep learning.